The Tusculum Pioneers get set to open up this season when they host the Bluefield State Blues, and that'll be on a Thursday night under the lights here from Pioneer Field. Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Stayton, joined by Matthew Palazzo as we get set for another season of Pioneer football, a team that ended the year with 9 straight losses after opening up the year with a win against Bluefield State from a year ago. This coaching staff entering their 3rd year. For Coach Taylor, I know he wants a lot of success, and from the spring game to now, do we feel as if they have taken those steps?
I certainly feel like they've taken those steps. A much improved team from year 3. And you see with a lot of coaching changes, a lot of tenures, whenever they take that big step in year 3. Is this the big year for Coach Taylor and his squad? He talked about it last year. It was his first real recruiting squad last year, his class. And then you rarely see that many freshmen take the field. Well, now they're another year into this system. I think we're going to see a big jump here in year 3.
What I loved about what Coach Taylor talked about a lot last year was how do we keep the kids here that we have because of this age of just going to the next best thing. They've done a lot of that. They have done a really good job in being able to keep a lot of the key pieces coming back this year.
Something we're going to talk a lot about today, portal acquisition, talent retention. I think Tusculum had an A+ this offseason when it came to that. They did lose some via that same portal, but the portal giveth and the portal taketh. I think we took a lot more in return.
Yeah, and I think we're going to talk about that, as Matthew had said, but also getting some of these guys that are back and some key departures as well on that offense that requires a lot of depth on the offensive line. That'll be kind of the iffy part, I think. We're going to jump into some of that, and obviously this schedule, which is going to be pretty tough. First time we played 11 games since the Matthew Palazzo era. So I think that helps a team. 10 games, 2 off weeks, that kind of hurts. Just kind of throws off a lot of momentum you could build.
Yeah, and we dealt with that last year, the first time in some years that we had 2 bye weeks in a season or breaks in a season like that. You add one more game onto the schedule, it's going to require a lot more out of you. It's certainly going to require more from the depth in those pieces, especially in front in the trenches.
This Pioneer preview, we'll hear from some of the players and Coach Taylor himself as we break down the offense, the defense, and special teams in anticipation for that week number 1 kickoff ahead of the Labor Day weekend on the 27th of August. We're back with more of our Pioneer preview after this.
At Marathon Quick Stop Markets, you'll find a company that realizes that our customers are our biggest assets. We are a locally owned company, proud to serve our community. So we do everything with you in mind. We clean and sanitize our stores, provide a well-lit, monitored area to keep you and your family safe. You can always expect a friendly staff and a large selection of products with weekly specials. Stop in at a nearby Marathon Quick Stop Market today.
When you need a tow, you need a company you can count on, and that's Casper's Wrecker. Serving the area since 1992, they provide 24-hour towing and recovery services. From cars, trucks, motorcycles to heavy-duty vehicles, local and long-distance towing, flatbed service, heavy-duty towing and recovery, winch outs, ditch pull-outs, and off-road recovery. They even offer vehicle relocation and load shifting services. When the unexpected happens, don't trust your car to just anyone. Casper's Wrecker, 639-0893.
Welcome back into our Pioneer football preview. Brian Stayton along with Matthew Palazzo as we break down this Pioneer offense. First is where we're going to start. A Tusculum team offensively that, from a season ago when you're averaging under 20 points a game and you've got those untimely turnovers, and then all of a sudden you get a bad penalty that occurs in a drive that you're actually moving the chains. The third down percentage wasn't very good. All things that must improve. When we take a look at a lot of these personnel issues, there's a lot of improvement, on that side. Let's start with the offensive line. We do have some guys that are back, but we're going to rely on some youngsters on that offense.
Yeah, we're expecting to start 3 of our 5 starters in their freshman campaigns this season. It's always good to have a guy like Gabe McLean back. I'm super high on Gabe. I started all 10 games for us this season ago. He's played in 19 games throughout his career here. And then it's always good to bring a guy like Matt Nunley back, a Tennessee guy as well. Just a ton of strength up there at that tackle position. But yeah, a young interior. It's going to be very youthful, and like you said, kind of deals with that lack of continuity that we saw a season ago, both at the quarterback position and it was up front. It was a revolving door at times. Now, a lot of that got better as the season went on. That's why we had a lot of those departures later and in the offseason.
Got Gabe coming back, who's a really good player for us. Him and Matt Nunley are the 2 mainstays from last year. So we're really depending on them. And everybody else is going to be super young. Whenever you're in the world of the portal right now, offensive linemen get snatched up.
I realize that the scheme has changed offensively, but you're talking to a play-by-play guy who's been here almost 30 years that has been used to just slinging it all over the place. A guy that's used to slinging it all over the place. That was not the case last year. Our wide receivers were not the impact players that I think they can be this year.
Yes, and I think that got overlooked at times last year. And so you look in 2026, you see that you bring back your top two pass catchers in Javon Richardson and Ashton Higgins. Phenomenal talents on the outside. Like you said, they just didn't get the touches. They made incredible plays when they got the ball. They just didn't get the ball enough. I think, anytime you bring two talented pass catchers like that back, it's just good to have, and I think you're going to see them with more targets and way more receptions this season.
We talked a little bit last year. We had a lot of mouths to feed in the backfield, running backs. And of course, when you line up in a full house backfield, there's a lot of guys, there's a lot of options, but you've got to move the chains. Unfortunately, we lose basically our three top rushers, but coming back, we gain some experience in that backfield, and it starts with a guy that comes to us from Carson Newman.
Yeah, Cam Ferguson, one of those three-man trade personnel that we got from Carson Newman. Cam Ferguson's going to be really big for us this year. That A-back position, think of your slot backs, your wing backs. That's going to be your A-backs this season. You're going to have Keithan Washington, who's also from Carson Newman. You're going to have Cam Williams, who returns. He transferred from Limestone after they closed. He played some last year for us. But Cam Ferguson, I think, is going to be that feature back in the offense. If you want to call it a feature back, I know we talked about it last year. A whole lot of mouths to feed. I think the same can be said about this season. I think the quality, it's just taken up a notch.
A guy that they wanted to keep and bring back and made sure he came back was Tino. And he was exciting. He was explosive last year. He showed us a little bit in versatility in that Catawba game. We didn't score points, but he was able to move the chains.
I'm so high on Tarantino Brown Freeman. I mean, he could be an early contender for me, for my favorite player on this team. I love the way he plays. He's your B-back. He's your hard-nosed downhill rusher. He's going to be your guy on the dive plays, on the veers right and left side. So he's going to muck it up in the middle of that line of scrimmage. I'm so excited to have Tino back. I love his attitude too. He's just a proven winner. He's a natural born, just hustler too. I just love the way he plays. Super glad he's back for his sophomore season.
Of course, the big position is the quarterback position. We're going to get into talking about Buddy for a little bit, but that is so key because you got to read so many things. You got to understand so many nuances of different defenses and looks and what's there and what's not there. Plus, you just got to make a play every once in a while. And we believe we've got a guy that can do that.
Yeah, there's an old adage, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any quarterbacks. I'm not a believer in that adage, as we found out last year. You lose Buddy, and you spend the last 9 games of your schedule kind of scrambling and trying to plug in receivers and backup quarterbacks, some redshirt guys in at the position. Yeah. We saw it just did not work. Offensively, this was a team held to less than 10 points per game in conference outings. That cannot happen again this year. I think you got the right guy, as Coach will say here in just a moment.
I thought he was the best quarterback in the league that I had seen. And for us to get him, it's a big feather in our cap. Gives us credibility at that position right now, and it's something that we really needed.
Pioneer coach Billy Taylor and his comments about the key addition there at the quarterback position. And when Teddy Gleaton stepped out here and we saw him during the spring game, there was that manner of poise. And I think that's what's necessary for this offense, especially when you're going to have some young offensive linemen that are going to be still kind of learning as well. It's going to be helpful to have guys in the backfield that are comfortable with him. Will the wide receivers get comfortable? I think that all time will tell, and hopefully game one will get them into some kind of a mix. But here's a guy that's very familiar with this system, very familiar with coaching, maybe even mannerisms and vocabulary as well. And I think that's going to make it a lot easier for the transition for him to be here in a guy who has had a couple of transitions to this point.
Yeah. Certainly, and coming from the Naval Academy to Carson Newman, he talked about it with me, wanting to feel wanted, not just wanting to be tolerated, and something he echoed on his decision to come here to Tusculum, wanted to be where he was wanted, not only tolerated.
Coaches believing in you is something that is very valuable. And from day one, I've felt it from Coach Taylor, from Coach Purley, from all the coaches. They just believed in me and believed in my ability to play the position and play quarterback and lead the team. And I think that's what got me stuck on Tusculum is they believed in me and they are bought into me. They don't have nothing against me. It's like they believe in what I can do and what I can do on the field, and they just expect me to show up and perform.
Teddy Gleaton, and again, he has probably bigger expectations for himself than I think everybody else has for him, which I think makes him one of our most dangerous players this year.
Yeah, and this is a kid who ends last season at the end of that regular season in the SAC championship, throws the interception. at Newberry, so you know it's got to stink for him. They get ousted in the first round of the playoffs as well. So I think a kid who's got so much experience, not only in college football, but in this league itself, Brian, so you know he's got a huge chip on his shoulder.
Motivated kid is usually a very dangerous kid, for sure. That's at least our Pioneer offense. The numbers we'll talk about later, but that's your personnel. When we come back, we'll adjust to the defensive side. That's when we continue with more of our Pioneer Football Preview.
Hi, it's Drew with Gary's Paint and Body Shop. When you need a collision repaired, you want a shop you can trust. At Gary's, our team has been proudly serving Greeneville for decades, offering lifetime warranties on all repairs and handling insurance claims so you don't have to stress. Our team uses the latest technology with the personal service only a local business can provide. Choose experience, choose quality, choose peace of mind. That's Gary's Paint and Body Shop at 3496 on the Asheville Highway.
Introducing the Ultra Compact Daikin Fit, a revolutionary HVAC system for ducted homes. It's the perfect fit for zero lot line homes. In fact, the Daikin Fit can be installed almost anywhere. Reimagine your indoor comfort. See the difference. Feel the benefits. Daikin Fit.
Life can be a lot sometimes, but at Holston Medical Group, our primary care providers are here through it all, whether it be a routine checkup or something unexpected. Because at HMG, we're here for you through every stage of life with the best primary care and support. Whether it's you or the people you love most, choose a primary care provider you can rely on. Choose HMG, your health partner for life. Now accepting new patients.
Welcome back into our Pioneer Football Preview 2026. The Pioneers kick off the season on Thursday, August 27th when they take on Bluefield State. You can follow along through GreeneSportsZone and also Jewel955.com all year long for Pioneer football. Brian Stayton with Matthew Palazzo. Billy Taylor is the third-year head coach, but he is the primary guy on defense. And I would think in his 3 years, he would say, I need to see that improvement going on this year. It has to happen for him. He's not been real pleased. There's been some more disappointment. However, through 3 quarters of most games last year, for the most part, that defense kept that offense in the game. We just couldn't score enough points. And we relied heavily on the front end. Let's start there on the defensive line. And I think that last year was kind of our bread and butter. Mm-hmm. We could get pressure on a quarterback, but lots of times we just couldn't get off the field on third down.
Yeah, and the issue is, I guess the problem that you could point to along that front is you lose a lot of guys from up front. Dylan Horn, Solomon Mayos, Aiden Dark. A lot of those guys that were contributing to those pressures, to those hurries, are now gone, and you're going to have to plug in the guys like Malachi Jim Lawson, Malachi Jefferson in that front of the rotation, so to speak, to kind of fill those gaps. And so, yes, you lose a lot of production, certainly on that front edge. It's hard to replace a guy like Aiden Dark. You know, in this Coach Billy Taylor defense, a lot of it is setting the edge, right? It's filling your gap. It's just doing your role 1 out of the 11th, right? We hear that all the time, and I think it's these guys stepping into the role this season. Can they just do their 111th? They don't have to be, you know, a superhero by any stretch of the imagination. Just do their job, and I think they can excel in this defense.
There's a former coach that was here that would say, that's a dude, and that's what you need. You got some dudes on the back end, but we are a little bit weak back there. I love Jude tonight and what we saw and what he showed us in the spring game as well, and we need that to step up a little bit more. That was a big, hard-hit area last year. And a big reason why we couldn't get off the field on third downs because they could convert the 8-yard to 10-yard third down conversions were astronomical against the Pioneer defense. And a lot of that was through the air.
Yeah, I think at one point I looked down and we had a 50% third down conversion allowed. You can't live there, certainly, if you're going to have success in this league. And on the back end, I think we were looking at that area specifically, Bryant, in the offseason as a point where we wanted to see that big jump. We wanted to see a big change. And I think we did see a lot of improvements, especially early on. It hurts to lose our 2 corners, Daquan and Xavier Gunn and Otar as well. 3 guys who caught all of our picks last year, right? The safety position, it wasn't great. We still lost the producers in that back end. But Judah Knight was a star that came through in his freshman year last year. I'm so pleased that he came back to Tusculum. He's going to have an excellent year. He is a guy that a lot of people are circling to have a breakout campaign coming in his sophomore season.
Our defensive coordinator, Teddy Gaines, though, will tell you we've got to stay healthy back there and that way and then progress and maybe build and develop some depth as the season progresses. Well, Billy Taylor's favorite position, that linebacking position. His whole defense is lined up for one guy to make a lot of plays. And in his system, we have seen Rashawn be able to do that over the last couple of years and get to that century mark in tackles for a season. That's what it's all designed for, setting the edge, taking up space, and then getting to the football. One guy is going to be able to do that. And we are pretty loaded. And I'm going to start with Cam Garnett because I loved his ability last year to go east and west. I want to see him go a little bit more north and south this year. Maybe not south, but let's get downhill. Let's get to the quarterback a little bit more.
Yeah, we are so tough and just hard-nosed in the interior this year, both with Greg Williams and with Cam Garnett as well. I'm so glad that we get to see both of them for another year at Tusculum. I mean, they were so good last season, Greg in his freshman season, and then Cam in his post, I guess, ETSU career with Coach Taylor. Cam's going to be big for us. He was the guy that we saw all last season, just plugging the A-gap. I think this year he's going to have a little bit more freedom, a little bit more space. He's leaned down a little bit. He's going to be moving a lot better in space. He's probably going to be the guy that you're looking at as a culprit for a 100-tackle season.
And a guy that will provide all the energy you need in TJ Jingosian. And if he wears the bright orange shoes, that'll be the guy you'll find on the field.
Yeah, I love TJ. That is a ball player. And TJ, I've said it for years now. He's going to be head coach whenever he's done with his playing career. He is so smart and intelligent. That nickel, if you will, to the field. He's going to be flying around. He's going to be your playmaker. He's a fun player to watch, whether it's on special teams, whether it's on defense. You can count on that guy to make a play wherever he's at on the field.
And then another big ad for this Pioneer team, and a guy that comes to us also from Carson Newman, is Jimmy Olarinde. And he's smart. He makes plays. His stats aren't going to throw, but it's the plays behind the line of scrimmage that he can make.
Yeah, he only started one game last season for Carson Newman, yet when we went up there in week 11, I said, that's the best guy on their defense. Yeah. He's the best player on the field. He comes to Greeneville this season. Again, another guy who spoke about it, wanting to be wanted, not only tolerated.
When I heard Coach Taylor called me, the conversation I had with Coach Taylor, Coach Smith, they were the ones that both recruited me. I mean, I just knew automatically. I mean, when you want it. Coach Taylor, I mean, he just invested so much in me, in my academics, and also me on the field as a player. So, I mean, it made it pretty easy, to choose Tusculum as a school.
Jimmy Olarinde, 22 games at Carson Newman. That helps when you've got some young guys that you're hoping will also step up for some depth this year.
Yeah, and that outside linebacker position, it's kind of like that Micah Parsons type position, I guess, if I had to equate it. Coach Taylor's defense, it can fluctuate, right? A 4-man, a 3-man front. But Olarinde is going to be a fun player to watch. You're going to see him move around. He's going to rush the passer. He's going to drop back into coverage sometimes. So he's a really versatile playmaker, and that's where I guess the majority of those plays are going to come from, that position on the field where Jimmy is.
I like to consider myself as a Swiss Army knife. I mean, whether it's rushing off the edge, playing in the middle, in coverage, I mean, I just want to be around the ball. I just want to make plays and help this defense be the best they can.
Can we get 4 quarters out of the defense? That's what Coach Billy Taylor is going to be asking of his defense this year, to allow that offense to score and to give that defense a few breaks. Got more turnovers and takeaways, I guess you could say, from last year, but the turnovers hurt us in certain areas. Can we have complementary or brother-in-law type of offense and defense this year? It's not the only aspect of the football team that we have to talk about, because we have special teams on the other side of this. That's when our Pioneer Football Preview continues.
Hey folks, it's Gateway Ford in Greeneville. Right now, everyone gets Ford employee pricing. The same deal Ford employees get. No games, no negotiation. Save maximum green in Greeneville today at Gateway Ford on Highway 11 East or at gatewayfordgreeneville.com. Save some green in Greeneville at Gateway Nissan, carrying on a 55-year tradition of doing business your way. Save thousands on Sentra, Rogue, Frontier, and more. Take the short drive to Gateway Nissan in Greeneville or online at gatewaynissangreeneville.com.
Family owned, community loved. More than ink and paper, it's precision, performance, and pride in every project. Always on time, expertly equipped, locally owned. And something new is on the way. Ready for your next big project? Artistic Printers, where quality meets creativity.
Ready for a game changer? Say goodbye to costly lash extensions and fussy false lashes. Merle Norman Cosmetics has launched the formula you've been waiting for, Lash Extension Tubing Mascara. Wrap your lashes in 360-degree tubing technology for your longest, most defined, and separated lashes yet. This buildable formula won't flake, smudge, or transfer. Available in long-wearing rich black and a high-trending rich cocoa brown. Lash extension tubing mascara and other new essentials are available now at Merle Norman Greeneville and Eastgate Shopping Center.
Welcome back into our Pioneer Football Preview 2026. I'm Brian Stayton with Matthew Palazzo. Excited about the season kickoff on Thursday, August 27th here from Pioneer Field. But before we get there, a guy that will kick off, I guess you could say, the season, the special teams units. You know, last season there were ups and downs, ebbs and flows. I think with everything, you have a first-year punter that's come in, but a guy that's very familiar to this campus, and another guy who could kick the ball in Mad Max, who was also very familiar with this particular area. Those two guys come back and they can really add a spark. And let's just start in the punting game, because there were times where we needed to switch fields, we didn't. And then there were times we needed to switch field and we did. It was about a 50-50. Needed to make that probably more 70-30 this year.
Yeah, and especially coming off a year with an All-American like Stephon Forbes back in 2024. You have Quentin come in, a local guy too for those Green Devil fans, a Greenville High School alum as well. Just needing more of that, like you said, flipping the field. I think, a lot of that gets overlooked. There is three facets to this game sometimes. And when you're looking at a defense that gave up as many points as we did last year, it was, kind of threefold. Sometimes it was a busted coverage, but also other times it was giving up poor field position to the special teams and also giving the ball to them with the short field on offense.
Block punts were a big problem last year that gained some and sparked some momentum for the opposition. And those are the type of things I think that need to be shored up. Mad Max, I think, doesn't have that booming leg, but he's surprisingly strong in that leg. Small in stature, but big in heart and big in leg is Mad Max.
He's an absolute warrior. Another local guy too, Science Hill Hilltopper, but he's taken steps each year he's been here and a super strong leg, like you said, despite the stature. We were sitting there cheering. We finally got a field goal. A field goal, I think, against Anderson, whoever it was. He hit the field goal. We were going crazy because we finally had a kicker that could nail a field goal. That's Mad Max. He's pretty automatic.
He's very accurate, as well. And kickoff was good last year. Our kickoff coverage was good. Kickoff return, I think, surprisingly not so much, but we didn't get many opportunities to return it. And I think our kickoff coverage has to be special this year, just as the opposition was against us last year.
Anytime you lose a guy like Camilla Nanford, it's going to hurt. He's gone by the portal. And he was a guy that we counted on, right? Getting those touchbacks and kind of putting the onus on an opposing offense for them to drive 75 yards. That's going to be key. Can you find a guy to bury it deep in the end zone? And like you said, return game for us last year was not good at all. We dealt with some injuries throughout the course of the season. Can we get healthy, and can we find the right guys to put, I guess, in our backcourt, so to speak, to march it and get us in a good field position?
I think there just wasn't the consistency in returning your special teams for this upcoming year, and maybe some new names and some faces that we will be talking about throughout much of the year. Well, the anticipation is here, but to the anticipation when you have lost 18 games in this 3-year stretch, you want to start turning that around. We got a lot of success last year, and I remember sitting there in West Virginia last season thinking, we are flying off the football. We are exciting. We are moving the defensive line. We are doing the things that we want to do. We are being very physical. And we had moments like that, and then Buddy went down with the injury. And that is some of the things. Some of these key guys that we're not going to have come back. And let's just start with Buddy, because I even think in that Lenore-Ryan game, we're moving the football with him when that injury happened.
Absolutely. And you, me both, we're sitting there super optimistic following that Bluefield State game.
Yeah.
I think we were waiting to see some competency at the position. We finally got it. I was incompetent, by the way. But Buddy did well. Buddy did well driving down. Unfortunately, gets injured in week 2. It's a travesty we can't bring him back in the off season. That's a whole entirely separate subject. But yes, you had a guy, but you didn't have anybody after that guy. We saw that revolving door, how it transpired after Buddy goes down. So you add a guy like Teddy Gleaton, he's going to be the one that's going to make this extra jump, this next stratosphere, if you will, for this offense.
3 top rushers from a year ago, Dinwiddie, Celestin, Dion. That hurts, but I think what the guys that we have coming back that we've already talked about will be very helpful.
Yeah, and I think up front you can talk about this too. You look at losing your 3 top rushers. We lose 3 of our 5 starting offensive linemen. It's a team that went 1-9 last year. I think you're going to be able to find some guys who are going to be better at replacing a 1-9 football team. So here's to hoping that can be the case, right? And I think the guys that we bring in, your Fergusons, your Washingtons, bringing back a guy like Cam Williams, hopefully they can be the ones that can make that step up. Coach Taylor said it. He thinks we can have an upgrade at the skill position this season.
Kid, we were hoping to come back on the defensive side and let us in tackles, but Coach Taylor said that's what my defense is designated to do, is to get one guy who's going to make a lot of the plays. Well, Rashad Watson did that better than anybody from a year ago, 2 seasons for 2 consecutive years. That's where I think Jimmy Olarinde will have to come in. Not only him, you talked about Dylan Horn, Solomon Mayosa, Aiden Dark, all from that defensive line. That was one of our best positions from a year ago. It's a lot to replace up front.
Yeah, especially a lot of pressure, a lot of sacks, a lot of tackles for loss. Solomon was a guy, quiet 10 TFL season, and then a Rashad Watson 100 tackle season. Like you said, going to replace that production. It's a Billy Taylor defense that doesn't necessarily lean on a superstar playmaker. It's going to produce, I think, regardless of who you plug and play, it's certainly good to have a good player, of course. And I think that's when you see a guy like Jimmy, a guy like Cam come into the fold and make that transition. I think we're going to see a really big season out of Greg this year, though. Sophomore campaign for him. I think a lot of guys make that jump from freshman to sophomore year, particularly the ones that get playing time their freshman year. They get that experience, and they're a whole year more veteran, a whole year more experienced than everybody else on the football field.
You know, Mobley was super athletic, and then you had the smarts of Watson. I think we have been able to replace that. Hopefully we'll see that come through into fruition. But it is that back end that there is that question mark when you've got 5 guys that we called a ton a year ago that were making plays, whether that be the takeaway or just coming up with tackles. Because if Watson missed them, there was always somebody. Daly, Elder, Gunn, Otar, they seem to be always making plays.
Yeah, and I think that safety position for us was in flux last year, you know, and we ended up calling those names a bunch, your Elders and your Dalys as well. But that corner position, I think for me, is the spot where I'm the most concerned about. It's good to have Judah tonight. I'm not concerned about Judah, but who takes that second spot? Who takes that dime spot, right? When we go and we put a 6th defensive back or a 5th defensive back on the field. I think that's where that depth is going to prove itself. Hopefully, it can prove itself right.
When you need a tow, you need a company you can count on, and that's Casper's Wrecker. Serving the area since 1992, they provide 24-hour towing and recovery services. From cars, trucks, motorcycles to heavy-duty vehicles, local and long-distance towing, flatbed service, heavy-duty towing and recovery, winch outs, ditch pull-outs, and off-road recovery. They even offer vehicle relocation and load shifting services. When the unexpected happens, don't trust your car to just anyone. Casper's Wrecker, 639-0893.
At Marathon Quick Stop Markets, you'll find a company that realizes that our customers are our biggest assets. We are a locally owned company, proud to serve our community. So we do everything with you in mind. We clean and sanitize our stores, provide a well-lit, monitored area to keep you and your family safe. You can always expect a friendly staff and a large selection of products with weekly specials. Stop in at a nearby Marathon Quick Stop Market today.
All right, it's exciting to talk about an 11-game schedule. We haven't had that in a minute. And there will be a break in the season, but we get off to a very early start, mostly before anybody else plays on a Thursday night here under the lights, August 27th, and Bluefield State. It's important, I think, imperative to get off to a good start.
Absolutely. A Bluefield State team last year that did a little bit better than we were expecting. I think a lot of the experts nationwide are pegging this team to have a similar type season, a less than average season. It's pivotal, like you said, to get off to a 1-0 start. You cannot be behind the 8 ball. We've done that a time too many, especially during my time here. You schedule tough in week 1. You might not know who you have. You start behind 0-1 and you're outside the playoff picture. Now, that playoff picture decided a little bit different this season with the new NPI model, more metrics based rather than a panel voting on it. So that's a little different. But also, it's good to have a region game, not so much 2 non-region games like a ETSU and whoever, Kennesaw State like in yesteryear.
But ETSU is on that schedule, and it's exciting because Billy gets to go back home a little bit. He'll probably be seeing a whole lot of folks. If you get off to a good start, there's still belief when you go to Johnson City, and it's not a very long road trip as well. That'll be week 2, 2 non-conference games to open that up. It's always good to play those D1s, and, you know, it does give you a litmus test, if you will, just to see where your program is.
Yeah, and Tusculum's actually been pretty good against FCS competition in our history. You know, people would be surprised the gap between FCS and upper tier D2 is not that far of a difference. Of course, in the trenches, I think, and certain skill positions is where you'll see the bulk of that difference. But that's going to be a really fun game. I know the atmospheres are just bigger. The electricity is in the air. I remember going to Kennesaw State, 10,000 people screaming hootie hoo and the lights flickering on and off. So it should be a really fun time in Williams-Brice Stadium, regardless of the outcome.
Exactly. We open up with Emory and Henry, who was picked preseason number 3 on the road to open up South Atlantic Conference action before we come back home for 2 straight weeks against Anderson and Catawba. And I'm going to say every game on this schedule is going to be a winnable game, but I think we owe Anderson something. Did not play very good on the road last year, and I think in front of the home fans, we have just 5 home games this season. Anderson is a game that I think you have to come out. They did what they wanted to in the first half and made it look very easy.
And Anderson's a team, they lose their 3 best offensive playmakers, third year of their program being in existence. They've continued to make that step up in their program. They knocked off LR last season. I don't think a lot of people expected them to do. It's a vastly better team than that first year that we saw them in. They continue to make that jump. It's going to be a tough game, but I think you look at that whole bulk of games. At Emory and Henry, it's a tough place to play, yes, but then at home against Anderson, at home against Catawba, very winnable games for us too. If you want to start 1-0, that's good, but you look a little bit further, which I know is something Coach Taylor doesn't like to do, but you've got a couple winnable games there in that first half of the schedule.
Catawba is preseason number 5 this year. It's Matthew's dark horse, and based on what they did to us last year, I tend to agree. I think that's also a program that is trending up, if you will. 2 Mars Hill, 2 Wingate, and Wingate will be an afternoon game, not the night game, so that's actually going to be nice, but that's a team that's, predicted to finish very well. I love one game at home, the homecoming against Wise, which will be that rivalry game. I love the Halloween at the Graveyard at Newberry. Not since the Frankie DeBusk era. Maybe not even since early 2000s have we had a night game at the Graveyard on Halloween. And the last time we had that, it was a final possession game. I love everything about Newberry at night, especially at Halloween.
And I've only been a spectator about it. The last time that Tusculum played on the road at Newberry, I was a junior in high school. So you got to go all the way back then. Not that long, but still, it just feels like we haven't played them a lot. We've only played them, I think, 3 times in the last 6 seasons, ever since 2019. So a program that we don't have a lot of familiarity with, certainly under Coach Billy Taylor, and a team also we need to get some revenge on from last year. Also a team that made the Final Four. They're going in the right direction. That entire program is.
No question. They're definitely trending the right way. And then, of course, to Lenore Ride, not a night game, used to be the home of night football late in the year in November, a Saturday afternoon game. Before we close it out against Carson Newman, which will be very interesting with some new faces on that side of the football field, that side of the rivalry for that team out west.
Oh, certainly. And that goes both ways too. They got some, we got some. Circle that November 14th game. It should be a fun one. Some players playing against their former team. I think anytime you have that happen, you're just throwing gasoline on the fire. Some tempers, some flaring. That's just par for the course in Carson Newman Tusculum. That's the state's second oldest rivalry for you.
Players haven't played ETSU, by the way, since 1950, so it's been a minute. Just excited to get them on the schedule. When they didn't have football, we had a lot of the Bucks fans that would come here and set up for just tailgate just because they wanted the football atmosphere. And then they brought football back to ETSU. So it's good to see this game on that schedule for non-conference. All right, final thoughts right now. What do you need to see out of this Pioneer football team?
I need to see a step up. I think offensively, you got to score more than just 10 points a game in league play. I think defensively, I'd like to see some depth on the back end. I want to see that defensive front as well early on, kind of step up and fill those voids that you left along the front. I don't have any, questions or doubts about that linebacker core. I think Coach Taylor is going to get them in the right position. I'm excited for Teddy Gleaton.
Yeah.
I'm excited for better quarterback play. I'm excited for better skill position play as well. Little concern about up front the youth that we're going to bring to the table. But again, who isn't young in this day and age of the transfer portal? Your offensive line is going to be hit the hardest. I think anytime you can get those guys in there week 1 early on, it's better for them long term. And hopefully that's the case with us this season.
This coaching staff has been able to retain some of the players that they have wanted to be able to retain and got them into this program for a second year. So we've talked about kids, yet we're still a little bit inexperienced when it comes to playing some of these teams that have 5th year, maybe even 6th year seniors. We're talking 22, 23-year-olds. How do we still respond from that? How do we respond maybe getting success and then not having success and having failures that result in putting us in bad situations? Still a young football team. I think those are the question marks for me. I want to see us be able to respond when we fail. How do we respond and how do we get better and how do we hold in order to get us some success a little later on as well? But in the 3rd year for Coach Billy Taylor, I think with what his recruiting has done, we're going to start seeing more of those strides this year?
These guys are hungry. It's not that they're not hungry. I seen it when I came on the visit that the guys here they're not just no scrubs on the side of the street. These guys are hungry and they want to win. And I think that me being here and the guys that we have brought in and the people that are here, like, we have gelled together. We have leaders on this team now. We would shock a lot of people in the SAC conference this year.
The 1-9, they know it's unacceptable, and we're ready to all change it, like, as together. Like, we all gel together, and we all have one goal, which is to win games and compete for the SAC championship. I mean, we're all like-minded, offense, defense, special teams. We all gel together, and we all know what the goal is for this season.
I mean, this is a new day, and I feel like the people that we've brought in, you know, both from high school and from the portal, and mix them with the guys that we've got back from last year, I think we've got a shot to really surprise some people.
Excited about the first game, though.
I'm certainly excited. I'm ready for another season up in the broadcast booth. I know year 2 for me, or year 26?
Something.
20-something for Brian. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be wonderful. I, for one, am very excited. So,
join us on August 27th, which is also as many years as I've been doing this, by the way, for Tusculum versus Bluefield State for a 6 o'clock kickoff right back through here on our Pioneer Sports Network. You can watch that through TusculumPioneers.com. You can listen through 95.5 FM, online through Jewel955.com all season long, and also through GreeneSportsZone.com through our YouTube and Facebook Live pages. Lots of ways for you to follow Pioneer football, and we hope that you do that as well. Thanks to Joe and Andrew, for Dom, for Matthew Palazzo. I'm Brian Stayton, and for these Pioneer faithful, go Pioneers.